Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting. Just a quick housekeeping item. The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act of the School Districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, the Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, and the Star Ledger. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind doing a roll call and taking attendance?
Mr. Gilford. Mr. Arnott.
Here.
Ms. Chigarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Thomas. Ms. Cronin.
Here.
Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Valenti.
Here.
And Ms. Weber.
Here.
7 present and accounted.
Thank you very much. Would everybody please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Students. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, I see you took President's comments off the agenda, so we'll move right on to Superintendent's.
That must have been an oversight, but if you want to make any comments, please feel free to do
No,
so.
I'll wait. It's part of the finance meeting. Just
Where that came from.
welcome back. It's nice to be back in the building. So, Dr. LaSusa, we'll move right on to Superintendent's report.
Sure. I'll begin just by congratulating all of our performers and athletes this past weekend. It was a busy one in Chatham, and it was a great weekend in a lot of ways. Also, for an enrollment update, as I've been stating, we continue to pick up a trickle of students as the year goes on. So right now we have 4,233 students enrolled in the district. And we completed our first main round of kindergarten registration. Right now we have 159 students registered for kindergarten next year, and that represents the smallest class of students after initial registration that we've had in a very long time. So that number, combined with the relatively small number we have in our current kindergarten, our current first grade, shows clearly that we have two trends happening. One is that we are gaining students over the years in the district, and that's why our enrollment has been continuing to increase, but the incoming classes have remained lower than they had been for the prior 10 years or so. So we're keeping an eye on that. I'll continually update the board about our kindergarten numbers, really probably now until through August. And this week we began our first grade registration, so I'll have updates about that by the next meeting.
So first grade's at 288 now, but then you're going to start registration?
No, the current first grade's at 288. The current kindergarten is more like 210. So we're registering for the current kindergarten class moving into first grade.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Excellent.
That is my report. I'll turn it over to Mr. DeQuilla.
First item I just want to report on January 25th, the board finished and closed on the sale of the referendum bonds. The bonds were sold to UBS Financials at a 2.95 interest rate for 20-year bonds, which was lower than the projected rate of 3.25% from when we did all of the analysis when we promoted the referendum. That should save the average household approximately $3 a year, but better, when that magnifies, it'll save both the township and the borough combined approximately $576,000 of interest expense over the life of the bonds.
I'll just interject. I'm just putting up, we have a page on our website for periodic updates regarding the referendum projects. So we have, just updates as we move along and meet with the architects, and we put up just a slide that anyone can reference to look at the interest rate for the bond call.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Peter, the slide says 590,000? Actual versus projected versus what you did an audible on?
No, I will go back and double check, but from my original notes, it was 576.
It was 5, okay. I just want to make sure we're accurate. I mean, it's a big number, it's a great number. I just want to make sure we're accurately reflecting what the savings.
I know where Mike did. I will take the 590. Because I know I did that sheet and checked it. You know, it's not on the report.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping it's 590, but you'll get back to us and
Yes.
post the updated slide.
If needed, that slide would be updated, and that slide is on the website.
Okay,
Just want to go with the referendum. Mike and I and other staff members have been diligently working with the architect. The Cougar Field bleachers has been out to bid, and the bid was in the newspaper on Friday. All the work continues on other projects as well. We've had meetings about the high school auditorium, the roof work, the STEM addition, and the Milton addition. Per the timetable, all work is progressing according to that timetable. Just want to briefly report on the budget. The business office has been working on the budget. We're in our preliminary findings and stages. The preliminary budget will be approved by the board on March 6th because our budget needs to be sent to the county office by March 20th for their initial review. March 6th will be an open finance meeting at 6:30 to review the budget. As we've noted, with the special services building, due to the structure, we are progressing and working with the architect and the engineer to find suitable places to put the replacement building on district property. With Mr. Gilfillan's absence, just an update from the last finance meeting, we also talked of reviewing athletic expenditures by sports, and the committee verified that they were not interested due to the cost of installing a net along the foul lines at the high school baseball field. And that, I think, will sum it up.
okay, thank you for doing essentially the finance report, and I could elaborate on that a little bit more when we get to the committee reports. Does anybody have any questions for Peter on any of those topics? I know it was a lot. When we get to finance, we can elaborate on it a little bit more. Everybody good on this side?
It's great news.
Yeah, I know. Again, I'm hoping the great news is 590 and not 576. But still, fantastic. I mean, $500,000 has been fantastic. Okay, no other questions. We're going to move on to committee reports. Ms. Ciccarelli on personnel.
Yes, personnel met on January 18th. We discussed CAA negotiations, which are underway. We also discussed benefits exposure, which our benefits broker is looking into. And we talked some about the special services building move, which we're going to expand upon in board business, correct?
Yeah, finance, and then again in board
Right.
business. You know, we could talk about it until everybody's has all their
Right.
answers.
And that's it.
Okay, fantastic. Moving on to curriculum, Michelle?
Curriculum's met twice since our last meeting. We met on February 1st, and there was an open curriculum meeting just prior to this board meeting at 6:30 this evening. At our meeting on the 1st, we got a really comprehensive breakdown from Ms. Chase, just kind of department by department, the new initiatives that have been pushed forward from the beginning of the year, kind of the state of the state, where we stand now, and how things have been implemented and what's going well, what still needs some tweaking. Ms. Chase broke everything down by department, K-12, so it was a really informative, long, good meeting, and we had some great dialogue. Just prior to this meeting, Ms. Rocco was here just giving us the breakdown about language arts, K-12. Sorry there weren't more people here because it was really, really informative, and great things are happening for our readers and writers in Chatham.
It was fantastic. It's eye-opening. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Clark on curriculum or Ms. Chase? No? Excellent. I'm going to skip over finance. Mr. Gilfillan's not here, but I'll circle back to it. Mr. Connors, do you mind if I jump to policy and planning?
Not at all. We have not met since the last meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for this Wednesday at 7:30. Yes.
Correct.
7:30 here?
Is there a chance that can be moved to 6:30? Or is there something at 7:30?
What's at 6:30?
Finance at 6:30.
Can they be flipped, or?
No, don't. If everyone's set, for their schedules, I'll just, it'd be easier for me to move mine than for everyone else to move theirs.
So that could be a loose term, there's some overlap.
Or 6, we could probably at least do
Oh.
one of them at 6, if that helps. I don't know if that helps.
Can you just take a poll? Not, I don't, Matt is not back, right?
Tomorrow he comes back, I think.
Yeah,
Who's
so
back?
let's leave it as is. If Matt's not here, I'll just, I can do 7:30, no worries.
I'll
So
send an
next
email
one's 7:30
tomorrow.
on Wednesday.
I'll send an email tomorrow to see if we can.
I can do earlier.
Yeah, Laura's filling in.
Yeah, I could do earlier.
Oh, okay. I think we could probably shift that, Rich.
See, that's what I love about
Mr.
the
Chairman,
policy
we're here for
committee,
you.
man. We
We are flexible.
we-
Yes.
We just like to make you happy.
We jump on it. So the next meeting is tomorrow at some time.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Wednesday at a
I
time. to be
apologize.
determined. Thank you all very much.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just wrangle Matt in since he's back tomorrow anyway. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to circle back on the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting where we talked a little bit about the special services. And I just want to make sure that the board, the administration, whoever has some questions, we're all on the same page and kind of following through on the events that unfolded and also just historically, quite frankly. So, just starting with the need for professional space, there's been a severe shortage of professional space for years. And with a 40% increased enrollment over the last 10 to 15 years, the staff has grown proportionally. So unfortunately, there's insufficient space at the township building for our current staffing needs. The needs for additional professional space has been discussed many times publicly. We did it again during the referendum. And we now have an immediate need to move another 5 full-time people and often a 6th person who comes in and out and uses that space. They're a full-time employee, but they use that space as well. So we need to move those folks out of the special services building, and we're going to try and find what space we can here. So the township has graciously offered what space they had, which is 2 small offices directly behind our seats. I believe they were used by the judge and the prosecutor at one time when this was the working courtroom. But unfortunately, that's still insufficient to meet our needs. It was insufficient before the special services building was deemed unoccupiable, but now it's just exasperated. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert the conference room, that big glass room out there, into office space, and it's not an ideal working environment, but we're going to have to stack a few of the employees in there and also do the best we can with the filing and keep the most critical information close at hand, which, Ms. Clark, I know you had a concern about, the types of material that they work on, the sensitivity. But in any event, the space available to the district at the township building no longer meets the needs of the district. So this is not unsimilar to, say, 2008, when we used to be in the borough, and the district outgrew the space in the borough as well. And we were paying no rent in the borough, the rent was 0, and still at a 0 rent, we just outgrew the space and we had to find room elsewhere, and that's when we moved to the township building in 2008. So the move to the township building, we've been paying $50,000 in rent and about $35,000 in utilities and fiber optics. That's going to go up to $60,000 March-ish? March. So $60,000 plus our utilities, it's roughly about $85,000 a year in the budget. Again, but even when the rent was 0 in the borough, we've just outgrown the space. And the township, they've been gracious landlords, and they've rented us the space that they have, just like in the borough. We've just simply run out of space. We just have an immediate need for more professional spaces. We have counselors in closets. We have supervisors working at the middle school when they need some supervisory space or temporary space to meet. They're actually meeting in a converted bathroom where there's actually a working urinal. We have tech staff in, I'm not kidding, it's Mike showed it to me the other day or 2 weeks ago. We have tech staff working in, I can't even say converted garage, it's literally just a 3-car garage behind the middle school. So again, this need for professional space has been amplified by the recent findings that experts have said that the special services building can no longer be used, at least used by human beings. So just to give you a little information on the special services building, this really just came about 3 months ago. In late October, early November, it was brought to our attention that the condition of the special services building had deteriorated to a point where we were told by engineers and other experts that we had to move the personnel out of that building. One staff member moved out immediately. She occupied the upstairs of that building, and she moved out immediately, and the others will be moving in the next few weeks. Is that a true statement, Peter?
Yes, the move date is February 22nd.
February 22nd, thank you. Again, we're going to convert the conference room into office space as best we can. We'll try and utilize we'll use the spaces that the township has, will be renting us additional space right behind where we're sitting. And again, it's not ideal, but we're going to do the best we can. It's not a long-term solution, but that's the best we can given the space constraints that we have. And just a reminder that the child studies team handles the most sensitive cases in our district, so we really need to find suitable space, and this is not a long-term solution. And the unfortunate and recent findings of the condition of the special services building and the space available being at capacity, this has forced the district to look at more long-term solutions. This brings us to the use of capital reserve funds. The executive county superintendent informed the district that we could use capital reserve to address the immediate need to replace the special services building and build the space to meet the needs of the district. The use of capital reserve funds has no impact on taxes. It's the responsibility of the district, and quite frankly any entity or household, to set aside funds for capital expenditures that are not part of the operating budget. Capital reserve funds cannot be used for operating expenses. More specifically, capital reserve funds cannot be used to hire additional teachers, counselors, put into the special education program, maintenance staff, trainers, healthcare expenses, nurses, books, or any curricular needs. Capital reserve cannot be used for any of those purposes. Conversely, the $85,000 that we've spent over the last 10 years, $850,000, that can be used to hire teachers, counselors, special education, maintenance staff, trainers, healthcare professionals. That $85,000 can be put back into the operating budget and can be used to hire staff. And just to, it's been a while, so back on the referendum and some of the survey questions, the referendum question that was defeated in 2015 asked voters on which projects they would increase taxes to support. And at the time it was bundled, and there were a number of projects bundled together, and the voters did not support that referendum and voted not to increase taxes to support the projects in that referendum. So based on the defeated referendum, the board spent about 18 months holding meetings, soliciting feedback, putting out surveys to all residents, not just school district parents, but all residents, and asked for feedback on which projects that they would support a tax increase for. So, and in the survey, next to each question, there was actually a dollar figure, the approximate amount the tax would increase to pay for a particular project or a series of options. And the result of that survey sent a very clear message, and it identified very clearly for the board, I thought, exactly which projects the residents would support a tax increase to pay for. And from the survey, only those items that received 50% or above support moved forward and eventually became part of the referendum that was just recently passed. And every question on the referendum, I think it was broken down into 6 questions. They were individual. You could vote up or down on any question individually, and all of them passed. I feel I only need to point out that Peter's Roots passed with the highest percentage, but as he points it out to us all the time. So the 2 referendums and the survey question only related to projects that would increase taxes. The use of capital funds does not increase taxes. So the passing of the with the passing of the 2016 referendum, we were able to address the most critical infrastructure needs of the district. The auditorium at the high school, the auditorium at the middle school, the limited classroom space at the elementary level, the STEAM or STEM classrooms, and the new labs that are going to be built at the middle school level, the roofs on several buildings, and the Cougar Field Complex improvements, which will include parking, configuration, bleachers, new fencing, a new concession stand. Again, the use of capital reserve will not impact the taxes at all. And the unfortunate condition of the special services building and the limited space available to the district and the township building being at full capacity, it has forced the district to look at more long-term solutions. And again, what we've appropriated is set aside $2.1 million from capital reserve. We've moved that and appropriated that to be used to build professional space to house the special services, the 5, sometimes 6 employees, some folks in the tech building, the central office. The goal is to now build professional space where we can be on site, be on district, put the $85,000 back into the operating budget, use the capital reserve that we have, and continue to replenish that each year. And again, if we use this to build the professional space, it has no impact on taxes. And we believe it's the most cost-effective way to address the immediate needs of the district with, again, no increase in taxes. So again, I just tried to go through historically, kind of recap where we've been, where we're going, what the pros and cons are. The capital reserve is there for just that, capital improvements. We can continue to chip away at bathrooms. We're going to have to wait and see the enrollments, how the enrollment numbers go. But Dr. LaSousa, would you like to add anything to that before I open it up to the board for additional commentary?
No, I think you addressed it all.
Rich, did I capture the historical? You've been here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, it's just the condition of that building is not acceptable, and it's not safe to the people who work there. Something needs to be done. We have an opportunity through the use of the capital reserve fund to do it, so I really don't see this as I think our hands are forced and you gotta do what you have to do. And I think you summed it up. But the safety of those students, the students, the families, and the people working there have to take a priority. And if anyone questions that, then I invite them to go to that building and go to the basement and see what's holding the building up. You may have a different view if you object. So,
Hey, Joe,
Yes, Al.
I'm coming into this a little bit late. So this is killing two birds with one stone. You have a bad building, and we're taking an opportunity to build space big enough so that the
Right.
folks here can go to, and then the rent and the utilities that we're paying here, about $100,000 a year or a little bit
A
less,
little less, yeah.
that can actually go back into the budget,
That's correct.
which,
It could go into the operating budget.
the
That's
operating
correct.
budget, which could be actually used for the kids.
That's correct.
All right, thanks, sorry.
Yeah, it could
defer tax.
It could possibly, if the enrollment goes down enough, we don't have to hire teachers and, there's a tremendous amount of more flexibility by putting the $85,000 back into the operating budget, and there's limited flexibility on the capital reserve. So this is really a very cost-effective way to use capital reserve. And then, Peter keeps us honest, keeping an eye on replenishing capital reserve year over year, and then say 5 years from now, when the township and the borough have met their obligations, say for the affordable housing. Those are some unknown numbers. 5 years from now, I hope our enrollment numbers continue to decline, but let's say they continue to rise with the buildings of affordable housing, which it's a complete unknown. We really have no idea where that's going.
But you have to plan for it.
But we have to plan for it. So the plan is to continue to replenish our capital reserve. We've used the capital reserve in the past to build the 7 classrooms at the high school, some of the other capital improvements throughout the district, bathrooms. But the referendum allowed us to tackle the most critical needs and the infrastructure needs. So now we can look, and again, our hands, Rich is right, our hand was forced October, November.
You're forced to with this building, so now it's, trying to, make...
Right. And I think this is a good use of capital reserve, and again, I've spoken too long, and I open it up if anybody else has any additional.
Can I ask one, I'm so sorry,
I'm sorry.
I don't want to dominate. How often does the staff, does Beth and Michael and Peter have to actually make it down to the schools from here?
That's a better question for Mike.
Pretty much every day, at least one of us is going to the schools. I was at the middle school today. I don't know if Karen was at one of the buildings today. Beth will spend her day tomorrow at the high school. So it's fairly
Is there an
frequent.
advantage being closer and central to all the schools from the administration's
Well, of
perspective?
course, of course. It's a time saver, and anytime a principal or anyone else comes up to meet with us, it takes time, it's a drain of time.
Well, or a teacher. A teacher has to come on their lunch hour. The teacher needs to come
Sure.
to meet with Mike. They have to come on their lunch hour. They can't come during a study hall or during a, they can't.
Well, they typically meet with HR, for a whole host of reasons.
Come up here and, have a question answered or whatever that they need to have
Sure.
live. It takes up a good portion of their free time during the day. When they were closer, they could do that.
All right, I'll keep quiet. Got it.
Right, yeah, there's certainly opportunity cost that we incurred by not having the staff go Maybe not. Michelle turned mine off.
It's right here. I have my own.
I turned mine off, Tom, when I was coughing, sorry about that. But I think there's definitely some lost opportunity which would be regained if we can have some of the folks that support our students closer to the buildings. And, you know, if they're, in that particular lot where Lafayette and the high school sit, it's 6 of the grades. 6 of our grades sit right there. You have the 2 Lafayette and the 4 at the high school. But Michelle, did you have?
Yeah, I feel like, Dr. As you said, the executive county superintendent did come out and toured the building and saw firsthand to help guide in that decision.
Yes, what happened was we had a concern raised about the basement in particular, and the basement is accessible through a floor hatch. I had never been in the basement before, had never had a reason to, and Peter hadn't either. And when we went down there, we thought it was best to bring in our architect, who ended up the following week bringing in a structural engineer. And essentially what there is there's termite damage on many of the floor joists that hold up the floor. There are a whole lot of temporary jack stands that have been in there for a long time. We're not sure how long. The original building has a fieldstone foundation, and a number of the stones that comprise the fieldstone foundation have collapsed inward on the basement. So there are places where you can essentially just crawl right under, through the original foundation and under other parts of the building. So the experts said that, you know, we weren't going to die by standing in the basement, and it's not like the building, if you blow on it, it will, you know, fall down. But they advised that we should reduce the load by taking out any heavy filing cabinets and then relocate our staff in as quickly as reasonably possible, I think were the exact words. So we then, after, you know, we got that assessment, we reached out to the executive county superintendent. He wanted to see the site himself with the executive county business administrator, so they came the week before Christmas, and they provided their assessment to us. So that's what led us to this point now. And the township's been terrific. They've been willing to bring us on. They cleared out a couple of rooms here that had been storage spots. So when we hit our break the week after next, we'll spend that time moving the staff that is at special services up here.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Or again, this is not a done topic. And Matt is really, from the finance and facilities, really spearheading it, but he had to fly to London. Okay, then we're going to move on to the liaison reports.
I got nothing. Oh,
Mr. Connors, to the borough, I'm sorry.
jump the gun on that. Please forgive me. Nothing to report with regard to the borough.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Clark?
Nothing to report from the township.
Thank you. Athletic boosters, Mr. Connors?
The athletic boosters had the last meeting on January 10th. Since then, they've been able to get some additional information regarding the Christmas fundraiser. They actually raised $7,200, of which was divided up between 3 groupings: the Green Village Fire Department, the Chatham Township Fire Department, and the Chatham Borough Fire Department. This is a fundraiser that the boosters run every Christmas, and they do it over the Christmas break for the basketball. They have the girls and the boys and the girls team, and each year they will pick a charitable organization, trying to get something closer to Chatham and where we are both. And they selected the fire departments, and this year they were raised $7,200, and they actually handed that out at last Saturday's basketball game. On January 28th, the Chatham Athletic Boosters had their annual fundraiser at the Fish and Game, which had 230 attendees, which was the biggest attendance ever at one of their functions. They had approximately 20 baskets. Hopefully, they will be able to net out, after they figure out their expenses, about $25,000. And
It was an awesome event. For anybody who didn't go, I highly recommend it. They did such a good job.
they really do.
Great. It was so great.
I know I sound like a broken record, but the Chatham Boosters, like all the other booster programs, they do a tremendous amount for the district, for the students, in any way they can. And to kind of put it in perspective, they fund the stipends for the coaches and the assistant coaches. And for the fall coaching, they pay about close to $20,000. For winter coaches, they pay about $10,000. For the spring sports, they'll pay another $19,000. They have done that, and they have a fixed expense, and they are dedicated to continuing to fund those programs. The district, we can't, just because there's only so much money that the board and the administration can farm out, but they stand up regularly and are always there to support. Again, I mean, you see the music boosters and the education boosters. It's tremendous. This town is giving, is never at an end. And again, please support the boosters. I'm particularly close to the the athletic boosters. But what they provide to our students is immeasurable in many ways. So please continue your support. Their next meeting is February 7th, 2017. Tomorrow.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Mr. Connors. I'm going to switch up here and call an audible for the Chatham Performing Arts Boosters. That duty has been passed to Mr. Arnott, who will take over and be the liaison for the Chatham Performing Arts. Thank you, Sal, for taking that on. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. And I'll try to give a Reader's Digest version. There are 5 things we really want to talk about. First of all, we want to congratulate the high school theater department, which competed at the New Jersey Governor's Awards on January 28th at Rutgers University. 25 schools, all of those schools, for the most part, the vast majority, bigger than Chatham. And I think there were 7 or 8 awards total given out, and we took quite a few of them. The Chatham High School production of You Can't Take It With You received a 4th place finish. Lily McGrath was awarded Best Actress in a Scene. Elizabeth Stewart and Mikey Bear, 1st place for improvisational pairs. Charlie Thompson and Colin Walsh, 1st place comedic pairs. Natalie Miggins, finalist in dramatic monologue. And Ethan Miller and Adie Roy, 6th place in dramatic pairs. So this is really remarkable, given the schools that they went against, and we're all very proud of them, and I wanted to bring that to your attention tonight. We also want to congratulate the cast, crew, production staff of Sound of Music, which was at the middle school just this past weekend. 2 sold-out shows. They were remarkable. I have to say that last minute I could not go, but the rest of my family went, and my niece was in the pit, so we were staked. But special thanks to middle school staff members Christy Spriggs, Gina Priano Kaiser, Sydney Leon, Stephanie Cooperman, and Suzanne Bass for all their hard work over the past months in making this year's production a success. When you think about it, middle school taking on Sound of Music, and by all accounts, it was a wonderful production. That's pretty ambitious, and they did a phenomenal job. Moving on to fundraisers, music and breakfast, perfect together. Chatham Performing Arts Boosters does their annual fundraiser, Breakfast with the Musicians, Saturday, March 4th, in the high school cafeteria between 8:30 and 11:30. And what this is instrumental ensembles from grades 5 through 8, and the Chatham High School Addams Family cast will entertain the crowds, and tickets will be at the door. The Boosters has probably 3 or 4 very important fundraisers each year, one of them being Broadway Under the Stars, which just passed. This Breakfast with the Musicians is always a fantastic event, and I encourage you to put it on your calendars. Saturday, February 4th, auditions for Junior Regional Band, Chorus, and Orchestra. We have an 8th grade oboe player, Evelyn Tomero, was named to the Junior Regional Band, and 7th grade cellist, Stephen Andrews, was named to the Junior Region Orchestra, and they're going to perform in March contests, and I wanted to give them a shout out tonight. And then finally, I would like to ask you to mark your calendars for the Chatham High School production of The Addams Family, which will be the final production of the existing Chatham High School stage, Thursday, March 23rd, 6 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, the 24th and 25th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets will become available through brownpapertickets.com in March, and also at the door to each performance. Please come out and support this show. And finally, I want to alert you to the next Chatham Performing Arts Boosters meeting, which is Wednesday, March 1st at 7 o'clock in the Lafayette Faculty Room. And The meeting's always open. We encourage you to come. We need more help in the boosters. We want to match the enthusiasm of the gentleman to my left with the athletic boosters. So please come out and get involved and give your input to the performing arts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sal. If anybody has any questions, please see Sal after. Moving on to Chatham Education Foundation, Ms. Kenny.
I apologize, I do not have a report to give tonight.
Okay, very good, next time. And Mr. Gilfillan is not here for recreation. Ms. Cronin, has the district cabinet met?
Yes, I did not have a chance to go.
Or that was
Anything to report?
previous to that? Did it meet recently?
Yeah, they should just on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
They met last week. I was home taking care of a kid with a fever, so I wasn't there either.
Okay, well, we'll circle back next
Ms.
week.
Chase attended for a little while, and she spoke about technology integration in the district.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to move the January 9th, the minutes of the January 9th public session. Excellent. I'm skipping over the December 19th because we don't have the correct mix of people here to approve those. We need Mr. Gilfillan for that. For January 9th, I believe just Kim and Lotta need to abstain.
Yes.
We're at the middle school. Oh, one Mr. We're at the middle school, yeah.
Okay, very good. So I've made a motion. Mr. Chairman Connors has seconded. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure. The January 9th board regular meeting minutes. Mr. Arnett.
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Abstain.
Ms. Kenny.
Abstain.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Passes 6-0-1.
Okay, excellent. And we'll try for the December 19th
6-0. Sorry.
next time. It's like the saddest
Yes.
set of meeting
Keep
minutes.
going.
Okay. Is there a statute of limitations on that, or no, we're good? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're not messing up some, I know, really. Okay, very good. So, thank you. I know that was a long committee report, but here we are. We have our first opportunity for public commentary, and after the public commentary, we'll move into the regular action items. If you wouldn't mind, the microphone is on this side of the room, if you could sign in. And if you could just be cognizant of the time, and again, it's not really an opportunity for lengthy back and forth, but it's certainly your opportunity to address the board with any concerns or items that you would like to bring to our attention or the administration's attention. So you have the floor, and then each folk, just line up, and then we'll move on to the agenda items after the public commentary. All right. Take it away, Ms. Devlin.
Hi, good evening.
Sorry, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. I know who you are, but
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township. Well, as you know, Chatham has two high school advanced robotics team coached by Miss Ryan, which is part of the STEM curriculum also taught by Miss Ryan. As I think you know, one of the teams, Chatham Cougars, already qualified to participate in state-level competition upcoming. But this past weekend, our other team, / Cougars, also succeeded in qualifying to compete in the state tournaments. / Cougars won all regular matches, all semifinal rounds, and ultimately won the finals with their score at each round not only beating their components, but far, far exceeding any competitor's scores. As well, this Chatham High School team was nominated for 3 additional awards. They came in first place, winning the Think Award. This award had to do with academics, engineering, and design, all compiled with drawings, logs, and details in a notebook, plus oral presentation to judges. They also achieved first runner-up status for the Inspire Award, which had to do with the high functioning of their robot, as well as providing inspiration to other teams. Only top contender candidates were in the run for this award. / Cougars also were nominated for the Motivate Award for team spirit and enthusiasm. Now, at these matches, some rounds require alliances with other top-performing teams there, and / Cougars, based on their performance and scores, were able to rank as the Alliance captain. So both of our high school advanced robotics teams are onward to the state competition in a few short weeks. So besides class time, the students practice after school. And these competitions are held all day, usually on the weekends, say from 8 in the morning to 5. The teacher, Miss Ryan, has attended every practice and every competition, and this is again on the weekends, the entire day. Miss Ryan's dedication, her teaching expertise, and support to these students in our STEM program brought the students to a new level of peak performance and academic achievement. She has motivated and engaged them, all the while making learning fun. And lastly, the high school robotics team, as part of an outreach endeavor, recently hosted a Girl Scout troop comprised of 8th graders from the middle school. Welcoming these rising freshmen, the robotics team discussed STEM opportunities at the high school level. Now 2 of these girls are thinking of taking beginning robotics when they reach high school. So I hope we can continue to invest in the STEM program, robotics and more, district-wide, especially at the high school level, including providing financial support. There is a merged and emerging field called STEAM, that's STEM and the arts. So with the eventual renovation of the auditoriums, or with some of the media classes already at the high school, perhaps some collaborative or across the curriculum teaching can go on with the science and arts program at the Chatham High School level. So let's be visionaries. So I want to congratulate Ms. Ryan and those robotics students. Thank you. I have a different short thing on wellness, but in terms of giving other people a chance to speak, is there going to be a second round? Okay, so I'm going to defer to that. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Who, you want to ask Jane? No. Oh, yeah, go ahead, sure.
Does that teacher get a stipend for like when she works on weekends?
She does. That's actually one of the few areas in terms of salary / stipend that we increased in last year's budget. So that enabled her to take on a second team and, devote even more time to the activity.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Geyer, Chatham Borough. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak to you tonight and for your time and commitment to the school district of the Chathams. Assuming here you had a few minutes to review my email sent last night, I would like to discuss those documents highlighted. Before I do, I'd like to talk about a school situation that happened almost 3 years ago, which in my opinion has relevance to this issue. It's regarding a 1-minute, 30-second long video presentation that my son produced to solicit winter accessories from his classmates for a fundraiser that the teacher had allowed. In this presentation, there is a 3-second written quotation that my son put in from the Bible that states, quote, "He who lends to the poor lends to the Lord." This particular slide showed for about 3 seconds during this brief presentation. In my son's words, the teacher pulled him aside to talk to him and said, "This belonged in Sunday school, not the classroom." But unfortunately, again, according to my son, she then told the class the computer didn't work, so the presentation was not shown. Hats and gloves were collected. This troubled me, as it was student-initiated. I then had multiple conversations with first my son's 4th grade teacher, then the assistant vice president, and lastly, Dr. L'Souza. During a face-to-face meeting, I was told this presentation was not allowed as it was proselytizing and he might consider legal counsel in this regard. I disagreed and noted that this was student-led, teacher-approved, and not a disruption to the class or in violation of school policy, as it was my son's religious expression and was in no way proselytizing or preaching. Student-directed versus school-directed. That's one of the issues here tonight. Fast forward to the 7th grade World Cultures and Geography class. In this class, they go into depth of the Islamic religion, talking about discovery of this religion, its practices, prayer, dates and holidays, and even goes so far as to making a statement of acknowledging that, and I quote, "there is no God except Allah," end quote. The video then goes on to state other foundational doctrines and tenets of this religion. This video also states that Allah is the creator of everything, the one true God, etc. The cartoon video and its main character is looking for converts, showing how to pray, explaining the 5 pillars of this religion, the prophet and messenger of this religion, when and why to fast, and even goes so far as to explain how much money to give to get closer to Allah. In my opinion, I call this proselytizing, for by definition of this word, it means to convert or attempt to convert from one religion, belief, or opinion to another. But my sincere issue is not with any study of culture and its people, but when religion coming from the school itself is explored and taught, this is proselytizing. According to District Policy 2270, Religion in the Schools, which states, in part, the Board of Education directs that no religious belief or non-belief shall be promoted in the regular curriculum or in district-sponsored courses, programs, or activities, and none shall be disparaged. It further states that the instructional program of the school should inform pupils of many beliefs and customs stemming from religious, racial, ethnic, and cultural heritage. Lastly, in accordance with this policy, I'm asking that the Board of Education meet together with the Policy Committee to consider the following 3 suggestions. Eliminate the teaching of Islam religion and all other religions. Change the name of this course to World Cultures, Geography, and Religions of the World, or change the name of this course to World Cultures, Geography, and the Discovery of Islam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Geyer.
We can certainly discuss this in greater detail at the next Curriculum or Policy Committee meeting. I don't think we're going to be eliminating the instruction in Islam because it's part of the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards to teach students about various religions of the world, including, and I'll quote, Buddhism, for example, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, and Taoism. And that same board policy states that the instructional program of the school should inform pupils of many beliefs and customs stemming from religious, racial, ethnic, and cultural heritages, and that such instruction should be designed to broaden the pupils' understanding of the many cultures of the world. So, of course, all of our curricular materials and the resources that teachers select in concert with the supervisor are designed to further that mission of broadening the understanding of our pupils. And that's something that, again, we can discuss in greater depth at an upcoming curriculum meeting. I can certainly bring our supervisor of social studies who feels passionately about this subject in, but it would be a worthwhile conversation.
Can you provide the video for our next curriculum meeting?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Dr. L'Souza. Not to take too much time, but when are those other subjects going to be listed so we, the parents, can see when they're going to be taught?
That's a question for our supervisor and your child's teacher. I don't have the exact course sequence right in front of me. Obviously, when it comes to Christianity, that is embedded throughout our curriculum, especially when it comes to U.S. history. But those are more discipline-specific questions for the supervisor.
Okay, thank you.
Bless you.
Libby Hills and Rath, Chatham Borough. My comments are also about the 7th grade World Cultures and Geography course. Mrs. Geyer and I sent an email to Dr. L'Souza and Mrs. Weber with all the attachments from the Google Classroom. Did you guys get it? We asked that it be forwarded to all of the Board of Ed members. We sent it yesterday.
I got it. As you probably know, our email system was down from
No, I didn't
Saturday
know.
until today, this morning. So I did not forward that to anybody, but read through the email myself.
So none of the board members have seen it? Okay. Okay, I have the presentation here. If you guys want, I can pass it around. You can take a peek. There were 2 videos. There were 2 PowerPoint presentations. There were homework, study guides, class assignment, which I would also actually like to pass around, but I'd like it back at the end so I can read it. No, I'm reading this at the end. That's the homework. Yes, 7th grade World Cultures and Geography. 7th grade Social Studies. Okay, that's fine.
No, I mean, I'm glad you bring it up, that's your right. I'm just saying,
Okay.
it probably makes sense.
That's why we
for us
sent
to have
the
it.
email ahead of time, so you guys would have a chance to review it and would be up to speed on, pardon me?
Entirely. There were systems issues throughout the entire weekend, and we wanted to make sure they were going to be able to take attendance today, so.
Okay, well, we'll forward it again. Anyway, I've gone through the entire Google Classroom about this course so far, World Cultures and Geography, 7th grade. Again, I have a copy of this. In the Middle East and North Africa unit of the class, the students are taught about the 5 pillars of Islam in great detail. There are 2 videos on it, a 20-page PowerPoint presentation, classwork, homework, and testing. In this unit, there's no mention of any other religion or teaching of it. For example, Christianity and Judaism are prevalent in the region and have also had great historical and cultural impacts. I believe one of the reasons I was told for this is that students may be less familiar with the religion of Islam than they are with other religions, such as Christianity and Judaism, and that they, quote, may encounter Christianity and Judaism in other classes, which Dr. L'Souza pertains to the New Jersey CCCS content that you just described. I did contact Mr. Mayor, and I was told that they may encounter other religions in other classes. And yes, those CCCS are a broad 30,000-foot goal, but when it comes to teaching other religions to this level, it's not done, and I'll continue with showing you that. Encountering a religion is quite different from learning the tenets, practices of a religion and being tested on it. While it may be true that most students aren't familiar with the 5 pillars of Islam, I suspect that if you asked most 7th grade students the equivalent questions about the tenets of Christianity and Judaism, which again are also practiced in the Middle East and North Africa, they wouldn't know the answers. For example, would most students be able to tell you how Christians or Jews profess their faith? Would most be able to tell you about the God of Abraham or the Holy Trinity? Would they be able to tell you about John 3:16 from the Bible? Would they be able to recite the 10 Commandments? Would they be able to tell you the 13 principles of the Jewish faith? Would they be able to tell you about the Torah, that the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible? Would they be able to tell you that what the Bible says about tithing and charity? Would they be able to tell you about when and why Jews fast? Would they be able to tell you when, how, and why Christians and Jews pray and to whom? I think most people would agree that 7th grade students wouldn't be able to answer these questions, yet they are taught the equivalent tenets of Islam in this class. If the goal is to educate students about the tenets of religions that we think they don't know much about, then I think most people would agree that we have to include the tenets of Christianity and Judaism that I just mentioned. Would the board think it's appropriate to include the same PowerPoint presentations and videos and replace the words Allah, Muhammad, and the writings of the Quran with the words God, Jesus, and Scripture from the Bible? Excuse me? If not, then the curriculum should be changed to include it. Oh, if so, rather, then the curriculum should be changed to include it. If not, then I believe it's not in keeping with the school's policy on religion, policy number 2270, which again states no religious belief or non-belief shall be promoted in the regular curriculum. And the instructional program of the school should inform the pupils of the many beliefs and customs stemming from religious heritages. So I would ask the board, the policy committee, and the curriculum committee to review the course to see if it's in keeping with policy and also to consider whether the name should be changed to more accurately portray the content to the students and parents. and I would ask the board inform the public of its findings at a future meeting. I'd also like to read the homework assignment. 5 pages, Introduction to Islam. They're supposed to correct the sheet and then fill in the blanks. It says, who is Allah? And that's supposed to be corrected to be, who is Allah? Islam is the organization of people called blank. Blank believe in a higher being who is more important than anyone else. This person is blank, who they call Allah or Allah. Muslims believe that pamphlets spread the word of Allah. The last and most important blank was a man called Martin Luther, which is kind of ironic. Believe that the text messages received from Allah, given to him by an angel. Pardon me, I had water. What is the Quran? Blank believes that these messages are the words of blank and can regularly be changed. They were collected to form the blank holy book called the Coriander. Blank will often read from the Coriander and blank in a building called the museum. This is the equivalent to a blank or concert, and here's the symbol of Islam. Page 2. Interesting facts about Islam. Today there are blank Muslims at the party. About 3 million, okay, I'm going to skip over to the 5 pillars. So they show you that this is homework, the 5 pillars of Islam with each of those 5 pillars, which the students can click on and get more information. Plus they've already watched 2 videos. Then they are tested, the basic statement of the Islamic faith, and they are asked to write this down. They are asked to write down, there is no God but blank, and blank is his messenger.
I'm sorry, whoever that is in the audience, either stop talking or leave. You're being rude, all right? If you want to say something, you come up to the microphone. She has an opportunity to speak, let her say her piece of mind, and you can come up and say the same thing. But stop.
Okay, there is no blank but blank and his messenger. This statement is the centrifugal force to their religion. Pillar number 2, Salat. Oh, the first one is belief faith, Shahada. Salat is the mandatory Muslim prayer that is performed 10 times a day, dawn, late afternoon, and sunset. The set prayers are sung or blank, followed by music. While praying, Muslims will either kneel or blank with their hands raised or bow with their palms turned down. Muslims pray in 2 different directions. They pray in the direction of the Medina and the holy city located in blank. Why do Muslims pray? Praying is spiritually fulfilling. It allows Muslims around the world to play Connect 4. During prayer, Muslims give thanks and appreciation to blank. Pillar number 3, charity. Zakat means blank. Muslims are required to give alms blank to the poor. They must give 5.5 of their overall income/wealth. The main concept of zakat is to free oneself from blank, since you cannot take objects into the afterlife with you. Instead, Muslims are encouraged to selfishly give away possessions. When Muslims engage in zakat, they weaken their relationship with Allah. Zakat is different from other charities for 2 reasons. Number 1, zakat is only donating blank in the name of Allah. Donating food or clothing to the poor can be done at any time with any amount. When a Muslim initiates zakat, it strengthens their relationship to Allah. Everything a Muslim blank is from Allah, so with zakat, the less you give, the less you will receive. Pillar number 4, sawam. What does it mean to fast? No eating or drinking during nightly hours. Muslims cannot participate in anything that gives them blank. When does fasting take place? Fasting takes place during the blank of Rubik's. It takes place on the 11th month of the Ramadan calendar. The end of Ramadan is celebrated with a festival called blank. This year, Ramadan starts on May 26th. Muslims fast to learn how to obey God. They learn blank. Fasting allows for a stronger connection with God. Pillar 5, Hajj. At least twice in every Muslim's lifetime, they must make a pilgrimage to Medina, located in Saudi Arabia. Once they arrive, they must visit the Kaaba, which is a cube-shaped monument in the center of a blank in Mecca. Hajj is seen as a religious duty in Islam. Millions who are financially and blank able to make this pilgrimage. When pilgrims arrive, they dress in all purple to show that everyone is considered equal regardless of blank. Wrap-up discussion. Why is it important to understand the religion of Islam in our study of the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa? I sincerely hope that the Policy Committee and Curriculum Committee will consider this, because this is not in keeping with the New Jersey CCCS standard.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board at this time? There's also a second opportunity after board business. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Amy Coates. I'm from Chatham Township. I am on the Board of Trustees for the Chatham Education Foundation. And as a member of the Grants Committee, I wanted to verbally confirm the earlier presentation of the check to the Board of Education for the District of the Chathams in the amount of $14,714.82 for grants approved as of January, and to just give you a list of what those grants were. The first one was for the Washington Avenue School ECLC Friendship Grant in the amount of $496.25. The second one was for kinesthetic classroom pedal desk for Washington Avenue School's first grade for the teacher Megan Calvely. The third one was the District of the Chathams Collaborative K through 12 District Art Show Grant in the amount of $11,924.80. The fourth one was Go Zen Anxiety Busting Program. That was for all of the K through 5 schools. That'll go to help all of them. The fifth one was Elephant and Piggy, asked for by the Southern Boulevard schools, and it's a book challenge. And the sixth one was Fidget Cubes in the classroom for the Chatham High School for math classes. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to verify in Mr. Gilfield's absence, that is, those grants being approved by the board
Yes.
tonight on the
I
business
saw them in
agenda.
the agenda.
With item number B14.
In the interest of time, I'm going to close the first public commentary. Sorry, Mr. Heap, because Mr. Connors has to leave us. So I'd just like to go through the regular agenda, and then I don't think we have too much in board business, and then we'll get right back to public commentary. So if you could just bear with us a few minutes, that would be great. So moving on to the action items, personnel, Mrs. Ciccarelli.
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 through A17 on our regular agenda.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Grant or Dr. LaSousa or Ms. Ciccarelli on any of the personnel items? Seeing none, Mr. DeQuilla?
Agenda items A1 through A17. Mr. Harnick?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to finance and facilities. I will move those items because I was at that meeting. Items B1 through B22. Excellent. And again, there was a series of donations starting on 10.
B12.
Oh, thank you very much. The athletic boosters for a little over 2,000. PTO at Lafayette for 15,000. Wow, for the purchase of Chromebooks. That creates a one-to-one at Lafayette now. That Chromebook purchase.
Yes.
That's amazing. Matching gifts from some parents in the community. Milton Avenue School donation for $4,900 for additional set of Chromebooks. Washington Avenue School $199. A family donation for $300. Some pet therapy donation, and also thank you, Mrs. Coates, for the Chatham Education Foundation, which are also listed in the agenda. Does anybody else have any additional questions on the finance or facilities? I know we covered a lot of the finance stuff earlier. Ms. Clark? No, I'm sorry. No additional questions? Seeing none, Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items B1 through B22. Mr. Harnick?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to curriculum, Ms. Clark?
I move curriculum, items C1 and 2 for vote.
Second.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions on the two curriculum items? No additional questions? Nope. All good? Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items C1 and C2. Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Chigarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
God bless.
Moving on to policy, there are no policy items at this time. I don't know, Mr. Franz seems busier. What are you doing?
Well, we have a very big meeting
On
on Wednesday. I
Wednesday.
expect a lot of
At some-
policy discussion,
At some time to be announced.
policies to come out.
Okay, very good. So we have our opportunity for board business. Is there anything that anybody would like to bring up new or old? I know we covered a tremendous amount of topics at the beginning of the meeting. We kind of flipped it around a little bit today. No? No additional?
Ms. Weber, can I just mention, we will probably have a need to have a meeting and a quorum of the board, either this week or next,
Okay.
about a student matter and possibly a personnel matter.
Okay.
And just to get a preliminary sense, would anybody be willing to have a meeting on Valentine's Day? Next Tuesday night? Tuesday, Thursday next week are the two candidates,
Do you plan on going to my house afterwards?
if it'll help. Is Thursday of next week a possibility?
What day of the week is it?
Thursday is the 16th.
Are we on a time crunch to do this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can do the
I mean,
16th.
you're right.
Okay, so we'll confirm tomorrow, but the 16th will be the likely day, if that's possible.
Yeah, that's probably better if you want.
Safer for the
Thank you.
husbands of the board, yes.
Hey, that's,
It's got to be a policy.
Go get her, Ken.
yeah, could you bring that up in policy? Okay. Any additional board business? Okay, so thank you for your patience. We have our second opportunity for public commentary. If you wouldn't again, just mind signing in and introducing yourself. Thank you, Rich. Yes.
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township.
Sorry, he's confirming meeting times.
No problem. I just wanted to please urge and remind that the February break is coming up, and I saw on the calendar that it's a no homework period. And again, I just want to maybe urge that the teachers get refreshed in this and are kind of reminded of this. I also wanted to talk about a health and wellness committee that the Milburn Board of Ed was rolling out that I read in the Ledger. But I think I'm going to table that for the next meeting. It was in the February 2nd local Ledger, though, and I just wanted to bring to attention that since our district has been very in tune to health and wellness. But I want to hold that now because I wanted to talk about, briefly, a little bit I just heard. You know, I do support an acceptance and tolerance of all faiths. I consider myself an inclusive person, not only of faiths, but of cultures, races, and diverse backgrounds. And frankly, I personally wish we could have some type of prayer in school, but I know those days are gone by. I just went to an interfaith breakfast. I actively practice my own faith. However, I can't see how this 7th grade curriculum supports the study of a culture versus religious instruction. And I didn't see where the study of all the other religions from a cultural point of view were brought in this class curriculum that the previous two speakers addressed. But I do want to stress this is the first time I'm hearing all this. So I'm only asking to be informed more. So I would just urge the board and the subcommittees to meet and report a little more comprehensively on this issue brought forth tonight, because it does seem important. I don't know where I'm weighing in on it, but I really would like more knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devlin. Yeah, I have a cold. My husband's a high school teacher, so I get all his germs. Hello, Mr. Heat.
Good evening, how are you? You'll be glad to know that I'm not here to discuss either religion or politics.
Christmas trees?
Bill, if you would introduce yourself, Bill, that would be great.
Bill Heap from the borough. I just want to let you know that I'm really not in favor of having you guys build a new headquarters for the administration. And there are several reasons for it. I think you've got very good space right here.
Sorry, Bill, can I ask you a quick question? Were you here at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes.
You heard my whole spiel?
Yes, I did.
Great, thank you. Continue, I apologize.
I think the space here is very good. If you were out in the marketplace and you were paying market rates and you were paying $150,000 a year in rent, that would make the payback on a building a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more palatable. 12 to 15 years, I'd be good with that. When the payback is out to 25, 30 years, it gets a little bit more dicey. You have to remember, too, that the money that you're spending here on rent, you're not going to save all of it. There will be administrative costs, insurance, and associated utilities. So the entire $85,000 is not really a realistic number to project on that. I think also during every budget cycle, the MO has been to plead poverty. And basically the idea is that we're, presenting a bare bones budget. We're only trying to keep the lights on. If we don't pass the budget, then we will have to start chopping up the furniture for firewood. And then somehow it doesn't look good when you come up with $2 million. And I'm a saver. I believe in rainy day funds. I get all of that. But when you come up with $2 million to spend on administration and administrative costs, the taxpayers give you this money to spend on the kids. And I think that based on the fact that the office space here is really pretty nice, I don't think that building an additional building is warranted. It's also the case that I don't think that we want the school district to be in the real estate business. There are plenty of other things to spend money on. I get the fact that once it's been swept into the rainy day fund, that it can't be used for other things, but I'm not sure it should have been swept in there in the first place, because what happens is things like maintenance are held hostage, and they are ignored. In a budget that we have that's this big, maintenance should be paid some respect. And things like leaky roofs shouldn't be put into bond issues. They should be taken care of out of regular maintenance budgets. And so to sweep the money into a rainy day fund is all fine, but that should be after maintenance is taken care of. So I would just ask you to reconsider the building. Also, one other point. I get the Jill. We had a discussion on the sidelines, and you expressed not an argument. Sorry, you expressed concerns about efficiency, and I get that too. There is time to be spent traveling back and forth. But I think those logistics can be worked out, because what I think you're going to find is that when you're closer to the center of action, you're going to invite more foot traffic. And it's just going to be too enticing for people to pass up. So what you may save in traveling back and forth, you might have to deal with the general public walking in and demanding an audience with Dr. LaSousa or Mr. D'Aquila. So that's to be considered as well. It's kind of nice, I think, to be a little bit away from the center of action. And I think that you don't make it as convenient for people. They have to make a trip over here. So please consider all of those things. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Thank you. Are there any additional public commentary? All right, thank you. If not, I make a motion to close the Board of Ed meeting.
Second.
We do not have an executive session, correct?
We do not.
Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, that's fine. I just didn't see her. I'm sorry. Yes, Mrs. Hilsenrath, if you don't mind just keeping it somewhat brief, to the best of your ability, where you cover your content.
It's actually just a question from tonight's agenda under item 7, budget guidelines.
7 under which?
Budget guidelines. Oh, budget
yeah, I
guidelines,
just-
B7.
7, approval 2017-18 budget guidelines. There are a number of bullet points. The last one says build free balance to maximum level of 2%. Oh gosh, Bill, you're really tall. Can you tell me what that means?
I can respond to that as
Okay.
in dealing with one of the other members of the public today. There will be a corrected version put out. It should be maintain the 2% free balance, not build. And the district, through the state standards, is allowed to keep 2% of its general fund as a excess surplus that's allowed in case there is any extreme items that the executive county superintendent would approve the spending for.
So does that mean that's capital reserves?
No, it means that it already exists. There are, as showed in the district's audit report, there is 2% what they call an excess surplus, which just sits there. For example, if all of the district's budgeted funds were expended, and in April a special ed student moved in that required to be sent out of district and we didn't have any money to do it, we would petition to the executive county superintendent to allow us to use the excess funds.
Is that part of what they call a cap bank or anything, or no?
No.
And it's not part of, the 2% I guess struck me. Is that part of,
2% is the maximum amount for governments, for New Jersey state standards that you're allowed to keep. So don't confuse it with the 2% increase in taxes
Right.
that the budget is allowed. You're allowed 2% of your general fund as an excess surplus.
okay,
Well, up to 2% as your excess surplus.
excess surplus, and we already have that. That's not
Yes,
what's.
we do.
Okay, and.
And that gets addressed every year at year end when we close the books. The district basically, I believe at the end of 2016, please don't quote me on the figure, but I think the fund was increased by approximately $38,000 to $50,000.
Okay, and it's to be used again for what? I'm sorry.
Any extraordinary items that you cannot find any funds that were budgeted for or any available budget funds.
And you don't increase taxes, so you're just shifting money from the budget to this free balance?
This is, the money that gets put in there is money that has already been approved in the budget and not expended if available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to do it? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming. I closed the public Board of Ed meeting, and there's no executive session. Kim seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you, everybody. Please drive safely.